Was I wrong for believing a dead man's message, or was I a fool to trust anyone at all after everything that happened? Just tell me, would you have done the same thing if you received a message that shattered your entire world at the most vulnerable moment of your life? My husband, David, was gone. That's what everyone told me, what I saw with my own 2 eyes as they lowered his casket into the cold, unforgiving earth. But then my phone vibrated and a text message appeared, simple, chilling, and from his number. "I am still alive, trust no one." I still remember the day I met David. It was at a small, local art gallery opening. I was a budding photographer, showcasing a few of my pieces, feeling awkward and out of place among the more established artists. David, with his kind eyes and gentle smile, approached me, praising my work with such genuine enthusiasm that my nerves instantly calmed. He was an architect, brilliant and passionate about his work, and we spent the rest of the evening talking about everything and nothing. It felt like we'd known each other forever. We fell in love quickly, a whirlwind romance that led to a beautiful wedding and a life together that felt like a dream. We had our ups and downs, of course, every couple does, but we always navigated them together, stronger for it. Our biggest dream was to have a family, and we were actively trying. Our life together was meticulously planned, every step a shared decision, every future event discussed with excitement and anticipation. We bought a charming old house, spent weekends renovating it, painting walls, and imagining our children running through the halls. David was my rock, my best friend, my soulmate. He was incredibly meticulous, organized to a fault, always thinking 10 steps ahead. He often joked that he had a contingency plan for his contingency plan. It was one of the things I loved most about him, his unwavering sense of preparedness, which always made me feel safe and secure. Our life, though not without its stresses, was largely idyllic. David's work as an architect took him to various sites, sometimes for extended periods, but he always called, always checked in, always made me feel like I was right there with him. He was building a name for himself, taking on larger, more complex projects, and with that came a bit more secrecy about the details of his work. He'd often say, "Client confidentiality, love," with a wink, and I never questioned it. I trusted him implicitly. He had a few close friends from college, a tight-knit group that included Mark, his business partner, and Sarah, who had been a bridesmaid at our wedding. They were almost family, always there for us, always supportive. Mark, in particular, was like a brother to David, and I'd often see them deep in conversation, sometimes serious, sometimes roaring with laughter. The day David died started like any other. He kissed me goodbye, promised to call me from the construction site, and left for work. I was editing photos, humming to myself, feeling content. Then the phone call came. It was Mark, his voice trembling, almost unrecognizable. There had been an accident at the site, a structural collapse. David hadn't made it. The world went silent. My knees buckled, and I remember very little after that. Just a blur of grief, shock, and the unbearable pain of loss. The funeral was a haze. So many people came, all expressing their sorrow, their condolences. I moved through it like a ghost, numb, detached. My parents were there, trying to comfort me, but nothing could penetrate the thick fog of despair that enveloped me. As I stood at the graveside, the words of the pastor a distant drone, the cold wind biting at my skin, I felt a familiar vibration in my pocket. My phone, I pulled it out, half expecting a message from my mother asking if I needed anything, or perhaps a condolences text from a distant relative. But it was David's number. My breath hitched. For a split second, I thought it was a cruel trick of grief, a hallucination. Then I saw the words, stark and terrifying, "I am still alive, trust no one." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. What did it mean? Was I losing my mind? Had grief finally pushed me over the edge? I looked around, desperate, searching for answers in the faces of the mourners, but they all looked genuinely devastated. Mark was there, his face streaked with tears, his arm around Sarah, who was openly weeping. My parents stood beside me, their expressions etched with sorrow. Who could I not trust? Everyone here was supposed to be family, friends. The days following the funeral were a torment. I tried to make sense of the message. I called David's number repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. I even tried sending a reply, a desperate "Where are you? What's happening?" but it never delivered. The phone was clearly active enough to send that first message, but now it was a dead end. I became paranoid. Every kind word, every sympathetic glance felt laced with a hidden agenda. I started scrutinizing everyone, replaying conversations, looking for inconsistencies, for any sign that someone was hiding something. Mark visited often, trying to help me sort through David's affairs, offering to take care of the house, offering emotional support. He was incredibly kind, almost too kind. His presence, which used to be a comfort, now felt like a suffocating cloud of suspicion. I found myself watching him, analyzing his every move, every subtle shift in his expression. Was his grief genuine? Or was it an act? My own parents seemed genuinely heartbroken for me, but the message said, "Trust no one." Did that include them? The thought made me feel sick with guilt, but I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling. I started looking through David's things, hoping to find some clue, some explanation. I went through his office, his meticulously organized files, his computer. Everything seemed normal, just as I expected it to be. His work files were encrypted, as always, but I knew the password. It was our anniversary date, a small romantic gesture he'd set up years ago. As I navigated through his files, I found a hidden folder, something I'd never seen before. It was tucked away, disguised as an old project proposal. Inside were documents, encrypted and password protected, but the password was more complex this time. It wasn't our anniversary, or my birthday, or anything obvious. It was a jumble of letters and numbers. I tried everything I could think of, but it wouldn't open. The mystery deepened, fueled by the message on my phone. One evening, Mark came over with a casserole, looking weary but determined to cheer me up. We sat in the living room, and he started talking about David, reminiscing about their college days, their dreams of building a successful architectural firm together. He spoke with such genuine affection that for a moment I almost let my guard down. But then he mentioned a project David had been working on, a confidential one, which David had apparently entrusted to Mark just before his death. Mark said it involved some high-profile clients and a lot of money. He said he was going to finish it for David as a tribute to their partnership. A cold dread seeped into my bones. David had never mentioned such a project to me, not in detail anyway. He always said client confidentiality, and I respected that, but now it felt different. He usually shared more, at least the general scope of things. And then it hit me. Mark had the resources, the technical know, how to send a message from David's phone. He was David's business partner, privy to his secrets, his contacts, and perhaps even his plans. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, mourning the love of my life, but also holding onto this cryptic message, this sliver of hope that he was alive, and the terrifying instruction to trust no one. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have dismissed the message as a cruel prank or a hallucination? Or would you have dug deeper, risking your sanity and safety for a ghost of a chance that your dead husband was still out there? I decided I had to pursue it. The encrypted folder on David's computer became my obsession. I spent sleepless nights trying to crack it, inputting every date, every significant word, every inside joke we shared. Nothing worked. It was clear this wasn't something meant for me to easily find, or perhaps even meant for me to find at all. The phrase, "trust no one," echoed in my mind. Who would David trust with a secret like this? Mark was too obvious now. I thought about Sarah, our friend. She was always the quiet, observant one. What if David had entrusted her with something? I met her for coffee, trying to be casual, asking about David's last few weeks, hoping to glean some information. She was still grieving, and her answers were vague, filled with platitudes about how much she missed him. But then she mentioned a small, unassuming safety deposit box David had opened recently, saying he wanted to store some important documents there. She said he'd joked about it being his apocalypse box. The blood drained from my face. This was it. I immediately went to the bank. It was a small, obscure branch, not our usual one. When I presented David's death certificate and our marriage license, the bank manager looked hesitant. He explained that David had set up a very specific protocol for accessing the box. It could only be opened by two people together, David and his designated backup. My heart pounded. Who is the backup? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The manager checked his records. Mr. Mark Johnson. My worst fears were confirmed. Mark. It was always Mark. He was the only person David had trusted, the only one he seemed to have let in on this deeper secret. My mind raced. If David was alive, and if Mark was in on it, then the accident, the funeral, it was all a ruse. A very elaborate, very cruel ruse. I confronted Mark. I asked him about the safety deposit box, about the hidden folder, about the mysterious project. He initially feigned ignorance, his eyes wide with feigned confusion. But I pressed him, my voice rising with each question, my grief turning into raw anger. Don't lie to me, Mark. David sent me a message. He's alive, and he told me not to trust anyone. He had a safety deposit box with your name on it. His face, which had been pale, now flushed a deep red. The carefully constructed facade crumbled. He started to stammer, to explain, but it was too late. I saw the guilt in his eyes, the desperation. He confessed. Not everything, not immediately, but enough to confirm my suspicions. David wasn't dead. The accident was staged. It was an elaborate plan to fake his own death, to disappear, to escape something truly dangerous. Mark had helped him, orchestrating the accident, identifying the wrong body, even managing to get David's phone to me at the funeral. The hidden folder on David's computer contained information about a criminal organization David had unwittingly become involved with through a large project. They were ruthless, and David had discovered their illegal activities: money laundering, extortion, perhaps even worse. He had collected evidence painstakingly, meticulously, just like he did everything else. He knew they would come after him if he exposed them. So he faked his death, not just to escape them, but to bring them down from the shadows. The trust no one message wasn't about me not trusting David. It was about me not trusting anyone else, not even his closest friends, because the organization had eyes and ears everywhere. Mark was his only confidant, his only ally in this dangerous game. He had sent the message as a contingency, knowing David wouldn't be able to contact me directly, hoping I would follow the breadcrumbs. The complex password for the folder was a dead man's switch, a way to ensure that if he truly disappeared, the information would eventually be uncovered by someone close to him, someone driven enough to crack it, but not too easily, to avoid premature discovery by the wrong hands. It turned out David had set up a system of dead drops and coded messages, a network of information that only Mark and now I, with his guidance, could access. Together, Mark and I started working through David's plan. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and incredibly dangerous. We unearthed layer after layer of corruption, digital footprints leading to powerful individuals. We had to be incredibly careful, always looking over our shoulders, always double checking our tracks. We used the evidence David had collected, combined with our own efforts, to expose the criminal organization. It took months, but eventually the elaborate trap David had set sprang. Arrests were made, powerful figures brought down. It was a massive scandal, splashed across headlines, and then, one day, almost a year after his death, David reappeared. He was different, of course, thinner, with a haunted look in his eyes, but undeniably him. He had been in hiding, watching everything unfold, orchestrating from the shadows, making sure his plan worked, making sure Mark and I were safe. The reunion was bittersweet. Relief, joy, but also anger, and a deep sense of betrayal that he had put me through such agony. We had long, difficult conversations, full of tears and explanations. He apologized profusely, explaining that he truly believed it was the only way to protect me, to ensure my safety and his own. He knew the risk he was taking, and he chose to shoulder it alone, believing that if I knew the truth, I would be in even greater danger. In the end, I understood. I forgave him because despite everything, my love for him had never truly died, had only been buried under layers of grief and fear. Our life together was shattered and painstakingly rebuilt, piece by agonizing piece. We moved to a new city, started fresh, leaving the ghosts of the past behind us. Mark, our unlikely hero, became an even closer friend, a brother not just to David, but to me as well. This whole experience changed me forever. It taught me about the depths of human deception, but also about the incredible resilience of love and the power of truth. It was a harrowing journey, one that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, but it led me back to my husband, a man I thought I had lost forever. It taught me that sometimes the most unbelievable messages can hold the most profound truths. So, that's my story. A story of loss, betrayal, hope, and an unbelievable reunion. Would you have followed that message? Would you have trusted a dead man's words? Like this video, if you were on my side, if you think I made the right choice by not giving up. Subscribe for more stories like this, where the unbelievable becomes reality. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.